I was approaching my 40th birthday when the latest iteration of my existential angst struck, and I realised that it was time for more change. By then, I was 7 years into the second chapter of my career and had achieved various promotions through the ranks at a global consulting firm. I had loved it in many ways, and certainly in very different ways to what I'd enjoyed about assessing the suitability of offenders for community penalties and asylum seekers in King's Cross bedsits for state benefits. I had traded a sense of social justice for mental stimulation and, no doubt, status, which many felt more fitting to my prestigious undergraduate degree. In any event, I was bored of consulting now. I was tired of the relentlessness of corporate life, frustrated in my personal life, and hungry for adventure. Africa had been calling me since the age of 16 when I'd first seen the film Out of Africa and dreamed of having my hair washed by Robert Redford in the Kenyan bush. Surely everybody else dreamt of that too. Or being flown by him in a tiny plane for two across a valley of flamingos. The second calling came about 10 years later when I first heard the lilting rhythms of the Senegalese band Orchestra Baobab at the age of 26. My boyfriend at the time and I used to visit Stearns, the world music record store on Euston Road, from where I acquired a deep and enduring love of West African music and a nagging desire to find myself dancing on a Senegalese beach at sunset to the Pirates' Choice album, or better still, at the festival in the desert in Mali. So when it came to my sabbatical, there was only one destination I had in mind, Africa, and top of my list, the music festival of Essakan, north of Timbuktu in Mali. To get there, I joined an overland trip and journeyed in a truck with about 20 others, learning how to dispose of my poo responsibly under the earth and at a safe distance from the truck with a shovel, and being introduced to the unforgettable beauty, warmth, and vitality of the people of Mali. We camped the entire time, on rooftops mainly, visiting the vibrant, bustling markets, taking it in turns to buy and cook food for the group, cruising in blissful peace down the River Niger to visit the home of the father of desert blues guitar, Ali Farka Touré, and always playing with the children who constantly ran their tires along the dusty streets, laughing with abandon and begging for our attention. I was in my absolute element the entire time. Being a French speaker and a lover of Mali music meant I fitted right in. I remember hanging out one evening in a bar with locals, feeling as though I was an alive equivalent of a Virgin store, listening to CDs being played by the young CD seller guy, dancing to them there and then, and discussing the virtues of Salif Keita or Habib Koité with Malians. How cool was I? And still we had not reached the zenith, the peak and climax of the trip, the journey out to the festival itself. When we pulled into the square at Timbuktu, it was as though all the overland vehicles in the entire country had pulled up at the same time. There were buses and trucks and 4x4s of various kinds all parked up, waiting for the same thing, instructions on how to get there. I remember sitting at the back of the truck, waiting with almost uncontainable excitement. I was so close. And then the announcement came. The Foreign Office had raised its warning level to red due to the threat of Islamic terrorism in the area, and the trip was cancelled. No one was going to the festival, and I burst into tears. I remember the feeling of utter desolation and heartbreak as I sat in the back seat of that truck. And then I remember very clearly the British woman, Ruth, sitting next to me say, "Just because they're not going doesn't mean we can't go." Something clicked in my head, my tears evaporated, and I leapt into action. A few hours later, Ruth and I had hired a guide, a driver, and a cook, and signed off the overland trip, waiving all rights to insurance and protection from the travel company, enlisted 6 others in our madness, and taken up a final camp spot on the rooftop before setting off the next morning. I remember lying awake that night and hearing my mother's voice in my head. What on earth was I doing? Was this actually really stupid? I was not known for recklessness, but was I really putting myself and even others at risk? The various calls to prayer came and went, morning arrived, and we headed off. We'd been told to travel in convoy for safety reasons. One of our party was sick with diarrhea and we had to stop for emergency loo breaks, It was so bloody hot and dusty, and as we got further out into the desert, the nerves were palpable. No one was really speaking, not helped by the occasional high-speed pickup truck that would come screaming out of the desert towards us, with men standing upright in the back, holding what looked like Kalashnikovs and looking decidedly threatening. And then suddenly, we were there, we had arrived, driving through a standalone doorway that had been erected in the middle of the desert clearing to mark the threshold to the festival site. I got down from the vehicle, sat on the sand, and cried with utter relief. Around me, I could see the Tuareg, the nomadic people of the Sahara, dressed in their dusky blue tunics, ambling around on their camels. I could hear the drumming. I could see the fires burning and stages being erected. I could feel the heat of the Malian sun on my skin and the sand already in my toes. And I knew that this was going to be a dream come true.